Love them or hate them, the HOAs all have rules they need to go by. And there are a lot of people and a lot of misconceptions out there regarding an HOA, what they can and cannot do. If you want to know more, stand by for more. Hey, this is Ron with Keller Williams Elite Realty with the Ron and Jill Group. Before we get started, two things. Number one, hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on the bell for notifications. We are going to be posting a lot of content here weekly. The second thing, if you're thinking about moving to Phoenix or you're pretty much brand new to Phoenix and you're still trying to figure out where everything's at in the valley and a good place for you and your family to go live at or go check out, down below in the video description, I have a link that'll take you to the Home Buyer's Guide, which is pretty much an overview of the whole entire Phoenix area, including the school systems. Now, let's get to the show. Now, concerning the HOA, there are certain things people must know regarding the HOA. There are laws pertaining to all HOAs across the board, all throughout the nation. Just like real estate agents and other things, not all HOAs are created equally. Not all the states have the same rules, requirements, regulations. And it's kind of off-putting, especially when you see an HOA in one state, they took the ball, dropped it, and they're having a hold my beer moment and try to screw things up for other people. When those rules don't even apply and some of the stuff they were doing over there is pretty much an abuse of power. There are good HOAs and there are bad ones. And all in all, in my opinion, I think there are more good HOAs out there than there are bad ones. But unfortunately, the bad ones get the reputation and the bad ones get more publicity and more notice than anything else. So irregardless where you're at, all HOAs have rules that apply to them. Understanding these rules, there is a hierarchy of rules. And this is going from the top level all the way down to the local level. First and foremost, there's federal, then it goes into the state. All the federal and state rules will apply unless it's actually said it will follow the HOA's discretion. Next is the CC&Rs. And this is not the old hippies from back in the day either, just saying. This is the declaration of covenants, conditions, and restrictions. This here will show the rights and responsibility of each member within that HOA. It'll also spell out the responsibilities of the HOA to its members. This is also going to provide architectural review to the members and being used as a guideline for the HOA. This provides information about the architectural restrictions, property use, and property maintenance standards for the HOA, and there are some more things that it gets into as well. But everything concerning the HOA and the maintenance of it, the architecture and all that good stuff is pretty much right there in the CC&Rs. The next one is the Articles of Incorporation. This provides information about the HOA, name of the association, the location, and the purpose of the association itself. Next down the list is the bylaws. Now this sets out some technical rules and procedures that the HOA needs to follow. This goes for voting, election of directors, term limits, all that good stuff, especially whenever it pertains to running the meeting. If you want to get more technical on it, look at the Robert's Rules of Orders. This is pretty much a standard that a lot of these meetings go by. Next is the rules and regulations. This spells out how the HOA interprets the CC&Rs. Now all this documentation are binding rules and regulations and documents pertaining how the HOA runs, operates, and what they can and cannot do. This is also a contractual agreement between the people living in the community of the HOA. And in short, the buyer needs to be aware of what they're getting into when they purchase a home inside of an HOA. Now, the seller has obligations to disclose information when they're selling their home. I'm only going to touch on what's good in Arizona. Look at your real estate rules and regulations within the state you're in if you need some more information. Something that is important to know, and especially as it pertains to real estate if you're selling your home or you're buying a home. There is the Arizona statute. It's in section 33-1806. And for condominiums, it is 33-1260. Now this obligates the seller to produce the CC&Rs to the would-be buyer. And this is for the governing documentation and information about the HOA. Now when it comes to the HOA and being a member of an HOA community, you do have certain rights within the HOA itself. The HOA board members, the officers, or whatever you want to call them, they are obliged, the HOA has an obligation to allow the members in the HOA community to review documentation pertaining to the HOA. They're allowed to review all documentation provided for by the builder, a recorded declaration of the CC&Rs, all rules and regulations, all board and membership meeting notices, the minutes, and all other regulated documentation of the board. There will also be a membership roster of all members in the community, including the HOA board members. It's going to have their mailing address and telephone number. It's going to spell out what their unit is, if it's a condominium, or what their lot number is, if it's in a regular residential area. You can also see the HOA's insurance policy, third-party agreements, or any contracts with a third party that the HOA takes on. Any judgments, liens, or encumbrances recorded against or on behalf of the HOA. Any HOA documentation pertaining to the membership voting, election of officers, directors, and members within the HOA. This also goes for the ballots, proxies, or whatnot. Another thing too, when it pertains to the board, and is really important to understand, is that you have a right to see the minutes. Also, if your HOA acts as a rental agent, you have a right to see that information as well. All accounting records for the past 3 years. HOA records pertaining to the management of the community. Also, any insurance records. Now, another one too, and it needs to be understood here in the state of Arizona, that not all states' HOA's rules and regulations are created equally. There is the right to review HOA documentation. Now, if you look at the Arizona Revised Statute 33-1805, subsection A, no charge will be made to review documentation. Are there some states that require a charge? Yes, Arizona is not one of them. This will be a review of all financial documentation or other records on behalf of the homeowner or a third party working on the behalf of the homeowner itself. And what this basically means is that if you're putting your home up for sale and you need the documentation to give to the buyer, you're not going to be getting charged an outrageous fee for it. And usually here in Arizona, when the sales do commence, it's all done electronically. The HOA has 10 days to review and comply with the request. Also, if you want to get a paper copy, yes, there is a little bit of charge with it because usually everything's done electronically. However, they cannot charge more than 15 cents per page. And the two bonus things for this right here, one, look at your local state laws and how this pertains. The next thing too, there is a property management company that usually runs these HOAs, so you'll usually get them from their property management company, which can be pulled from title. So when it comes to getting this documentation, having an agent that understands this process, it helps out a lot. Lastly, when it comes to the buyer buying into an HOA and wanting to get into that neighborhood, there are some buyer beware things. When you're getting these CC&Rs, you're getting all the rules and regulations, and you're getting all the documentation for the HOA, there are some buyer beware things that you need to understand and kind of get a good feel for. Has there been a recent reserve study done? You have a third party go into the community and having an assessment of what the funding should be like for the HOA. How much money should they have in reserves for any future or unforeseen situations that may arise, any future maintenance? What are the architectural guidelines? There are some communities that, they allow RV garages, additions, or whatever the case is, but what are some of the nuances pertaining to that? If you have a brick wall surrounding your whole entire property, do they allow for a gate to be made, or whatever the case is? Understand how that goes. Whether you're having a short-term lease with an Airbnb or something like that, or you're having a month-to-month type of lease where they sign a 1-year contract. What are the restrictions? Because some communities only allow a certain amount of rentals within their community. Is there age restrictions? There are some communities out there that are 55 and older only. Some others, they allow for people under the age of 55 to have that as their primary residence as long as there's somebody at 55 and older. Is there a history of lot or unit violations? And especially if it's the lot or unit you're trying to get into. Are there any unpaid fees for the lot or unit you're trying to get into? The last thing you want to do is move into a new house or a new condo unit and all of a sudden you're being given a fine. Hey, by the way, the previous owner didn't pay it. Guess who's going to pay it? You are. Are there any past due assessments for the unit or lot you're getting into? Are there any judgments, liens, or encumbrances on the property you're trying to get into? Get to know and understand the financial statements of the HOA. What does their budgeting look like? Are there any special assessments or any known special assessments coming up? Will allow you to have an understanding, is the board members making the correct choices when it comes to budgeting for the community? And also, do they have any money in reserves for any special assessments that may come up later on down the road? Now, there are some things to really consider before making the decision. Number one, does your HOA have any type of savings involved for any capital improvements or repairs for later on down the road, especially when it comes to the common areas? What do the main structures look like within the HOA, or what kind of a shape is the condo whole structure in? What does the infrastructure type of buildings look like that the HOA is responsible for? What does the whole condominium as a whole look like, and what kind of shape is it in? One thing I tell clients is, can you afford to be in an HOA? Also, you want to know, what is the limit of any HOA fees that they may impose? Because as prices go up, guess what's going to happen to the HOA fees? They may go up as well. Understand, what does the HOA cover and what exactly do they do and pay out for? Is there going to be any anticipated special needs or fees that have to be paid now or in the near future or within the foreseeable future? If you're in a condo, does the HOA have fire insurance? And the last three, number one, are you comfortable being in an HOA and fulfilling any maintenance or repairs required by the HOA? Are you comfortable to comply with all restrictions by the HOA? Now, are you comfortable with accepting any enforcement made by the HOA? Okay, folks, like I said previously, not all HOAs are created equally. However, more often than not, there are a lot of good HOAs out there compared to the bad ones. It is up to you as the home buyer to understand what you're getting yourself into when it comes to going into an HOA. Alrighty, folks, hope you found value in this. Please hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on the bell for notifications. If you want to know more about the Phoenix area, click down below in the video description. I have a link that will show you pretty much what's what in Phoenix. We'll see you in the next video.